You ever bought a cheap thermal camera on a whim, only to end up with a blurry mess that couldn't tell the difference between a warm pipe and a sunny wall? I've seen that happen a lot. People get drawn in by the low price, think they're getting a good enough tool, and then regret it the minute they need real data on a job site or in the field. That hesitation is real, especially when you're weighing a $300 plus thermal imager against a $100 knockoff. The big question is whether the Flir 6 Pro feels like a smarter buy or just another pricey gadget that will sit in a drawer. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into the thermal camera category, the first thing that stood out was how varied the user experience can be. Some models are practically point-and-shoot, while others demand a steep learning curve just to get a usable image. For the E6 Pro, the promise is a blend of simplicity and the kind of professional polish you'd expect from Flir's higher-end lineups. What matters most in real life is whether the camera actually delivers consistent temperature readings when you're moving around a dark warehouse, checking an electrical panel, or scouting for wildlife at dusk. Let's talk about who should reach for this thing. If you're a hobbyist who wants to experiment with thermal imaging on weekends, maybe you're a DIYer looking to spot insulation leaks around the house, this camera is likely overkill. It's built for people who need reliable data on the go: electricians, HVAC technicians, building inspectors, and even filmmakers who want to add a thermal look to a shot without pulling in a separate rig. The interface is deliberately streamlined. You won't need to flip through endless menus to get a temperature overlay. That ease of use makes it a solid pick for professionals who can't afford to waste time fiddling with settings when a job is waiting. On the flip side, if you're just curious about thermal imaging and plan to use it once a year for home projects, the price point and the subscription model for Flir Ignite Cloud may feel unnecessary. The cloud service is useful for storing and sharing images, but it adds an ongoing cost that casual users might not want. In that case, a lower-priced model without cloud integration could serve you just fine. Now, onto the practical strengths that actually matter when you put this camera in your hands. First, the autofocus works surprisingly well for a thermal imager. In my tests, the E6 Pro locked onto objects as close as 0.5 meters and as far as 200 meters without hunting, which is a big deal when you're trying to locate a hotspot behind a wall or on a high-rise pipe. The confidence in the focus translates into cleaner images and fewer missed readings, especially on the move. Low-light behavior is another area where the E6 Pro shines. The sensor is a 240,180 MSX array, and the MSX, multispectral dynamic imaging, blending adds the visible light detail into the thermal view. That means you see edges and textures that are usually lost in a raw thermal picture, making it easier to pinpoint exactly where heat is leaking. In a dim warehouse where you'd normally have to toss on a flashlight, the camera still gave a clear thermal map without any extra illumination. Stabilization isn't a flashy spec on paper, but when you're walking around with the camera in hand, you want the image to stay steady. The E6 Pro's built-in image stabilization does a decent job of smoothing out handshake. I tried it while walking through a construction site, and while the picture did jitter a little, the temperature reading stayed consistent, and the visual output didn't become a smear of colors. That's a practical win for anyone who needs to be mobile. Battery life is often an afterthought, but in the field it becomes a make-or-break factor. The E6 Pro runs on a rechargeable lithium-ion pack that the manufacturer rates for about 6 hours of continuous use. In real-world testing, I was able to complete a full day of inspection switching between indoor and outdoor environments without needing a recharge. The confidence that the battery won't die halfway through a critical job is something that many cheaper cameras simply can't promise. The Flir Ignite Cloud integration is both a strength and a weak spot, depending on how you look at it. On the plus side, it offers a seamless way to upload, organize, and share thermal images directly from the camera. For technicians who need to send a report to a client or a supervisor, that feature saves a lot of time. On the downside, the cloud service requires a subscription after a limited trial period, adding to the total cost of ownership. If you're comfortable managing files on a laptop or phone, the cloud isn't essential, but you'll be paying for a feature you might never use. One practical weakness that surfaces when you compare the E6 Pro to other models in the same price bracket is the lack of a built-in laser pointer. Some competing thermal cameras include a small red laser that helps you aim.